At some point in human life, almost everyone experiences it. A moment that cannot be explained by logic alone. A moment when the world suddenly feels slightly different. Not because anything around you has changed, not because time has stopped, but because someone has entered it. Someone who may not have done anything extraordinary. Someone who may not have changed history. Someone who may not even realize their impact. And yet, their presence quietly shifts the way you see everything. And in that moment, a question begins to rise. Why do humans fall in love? Why does something invisible, something we cannot touch or measure directly, have the power to reshape our entire inner world? Why can a single person become the center of our thoughts without permission, without warning, without logic? To understand this, we have to go somewhere invisible, inside the human brain, inside a system that never rests, even when we sleep. The human brain is not just an organ, it is a universe of connections, constantly firing, constantly interpreting, constantly building meaning from everything we experience. Every face we see, every voice we hear, every memory we store is processed in milliseconds. And when we encounter someone who fits something deep within us, something begins to shift. Not like lightning striking instantly, but like a slow chemical unfolding. The brain begins releasing powerful substances: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, adrenaline. 4 chemicals that sound cold, scientific, almost mechanical. And yet this is the first paradox of love. Something that feels deeply emotional begins with something purely biological. Dopamine is the same chemical released when we eat something delicious or achieve a reward. This is why love feels addictive. We want to see them again. We want to hear them again. We want to be near them again. Not because we consciously decide it, but because the brain has already learned something simple. This feels good. Repeat it. But if love were only about pleasure, humans would fall for many people at once, endlessly and without attachment. But that is not how it works. There is something deeper, something older than language, older than culture, older than civilization itself. Instinct. If we go far back in time, before cities, before technology, before written language, we find a different world. A world where survival was not guaranteed. Every day was a struggle. Food was uncertain. Safety was fragile. The environment was unpredictable. In such a world, a single human alone was vulnerable. But humans who formed bonds survived. One hunted. One protected. One cared. One supported. And from this necessity, the early structure of love began to form. Not as poetry, not as romance, but as survival. A biological strategy designed to keep humans together long enough for life to continue. But evolution alone cannot explain everything. Because if love were only survival, it would not feel this deep. It would not make people cry in silence at night. It would not make someone lose focus in the middle of the day. It would not leave emotional scars that last years. There is something more personal, something shaped by experience. From the moment we are born, we begin being an invisible emotional map. A map formed from how we were treated, how we were comforted, how we were neglected, how we were loved, and how we learned to connect. This map becomes a reference system, and when we meet someone new, the brain unconsciously compares them to it. This is why one person can feel right while another does not, even if both are kind, both are good, both are sincere. It is not about who is better. It is about emotional pattern recognition. Someone gentle may feel familiar. Someone caring may fill an old emptiness. Someone emotionally safe may feel like home without explanation. And without realizing it, we are not only falling in love with a person, we are falling in love with the version of ourselves that exists when we are with them. Love is not only about them, it is also about me as I become when I am near them. But love rarely arrives like a dramatic explosion. Most of the time, it grows quietly, almost invisibly. It begins with curiosity, a conversation that lasts a little longer than expected, a laugh that feels unexpectedly warm, a moment that seems too simple to matter, yet somehow stays in the mind. Slowly, the brain begins to reorganize importance. That person starts appearing in thoughts more often. Small details begin to matter. Their voice, their expressions, their presence. And at a certain point, something quietly shifts. One person becomes emotionally prioritized above others. This is where love begins to take real shape. Interestingly, when a person falls in love, the brain does something remarkable. The regions responsible for critical judgment and negative evaluation become less dominant. This is why people in love often see their partner in a more positive light than others do. It is not blindness, it is prioritization. Because in human evolution, emotional bonding often meant survival, and survival mattered more than perfect analysis. But even after all these scientific explanations, a deeper question remains. If love is just chemistry, biology, and pattern recognition, then why does it feel so real? Why does it feel like meaning itself? Why does it make people feel alive in a way nothing else can? This is where science begins to reach its limit. Because humans are not only biological systems. Humans are also meaning-making creatures. We do not only experience reality, we interpret it. We turn it into story. And love is one of the most powerful stories humanity has ever created.
It is not just attraction. It is not just reproduction. It is not just chemistry. It is meaning. It is the feeling of not being alone in a vast world. It is the feeling that someone sees you and chooses to stay. And perhaps that is why love is so powerful. Because at its core, humans are not built for isolation. Loneliness is not just emotional discomfort. For the brain, loneliness can feel like danger, like vulnerability, like being exposed in a world too large to navigate alone. And love, in many ways, becomes the antidote to that feeling. But love also has a side that is not always gentle. When someone becomes emotionally central to our world, the brain begins to form attachment dependency. And when that person is gone, the same system that once created joy begins to produce pain. This is why heartbreak feels so intense. Not just sadness, but something closer to loss of internal stability. Because to the brain, losing an emotional bond is not just losing a person. It is losing a source of emotional regulation. And yet, despite this potential for pain, humans continue to fall in love. Again and again. As if previous heartbreak is never enough to stop the cycle. Why? Because love is also hope. The hope that this time will be different, that this time it will last, that this time it will feel like home and not departure. And as long as that hope exists, humans will continue to open their hearts. If we step back and look at love from a distance, it appears like a paradox. It makes humans both strongest and most vulnerable.
It gives meaning and also risk. It builds connection and also fear. It creates some of the highest moments of life and some of the deepest wounds. Yet perhaps that is exactly why it exists the way it does. Love was never designed to be safe. It was designed to be real. It does not promise certainty. It only offers experience. And human beings, from the beginning of their existence, have always lived through experience. In the end, there may never be a single answer to why humans fall in love. It is biology. It is evolution. It is psychology. It is memory. It is emotion. It is timing. It is coincidence. It is survival. It is meaning. But above all, it is human. And to be human means to live with things that cannot always be fully explained, things that are not always logical, things that are not always controllable, yet still undeniably real. Every day, across every generation, across every place on earth. Love is not just a feeling. It is a way humans survive, a way humans grow, a way humans discover themselves through someone else. And perhaps as long as humans exist, love will always find a way to appear, quietly, unexpectedly, and always as if it is the first time.